Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Yes, welcome back.
This time we're diving into French grammar.
That's right.
Specifically those impersonal expressions with "y."
Exactly.
Things like il fait beau or il est tard.
Yeah, you hear these everywhere.
All the time. And if you're prepping for that pronunciator module.
The impersonal expressions with il module.
Yes, and you want that certificate, then stick with us.
This is going to be super helpful.
For sure. So let's break down those impersonal expressions.
Okay, so they use il as a subject pronoun.
Right, but there's a little twist.
It doesn't actually refer to a specific person or thing.
Like it normally would.
Right.
So in il fait beau.
Il isn't some dude controlling the weather.
Right. No, it's not like it's raining.
No, not at all.
Just a placeholder.
Yeah, a grammatical one.
For French to express general states or situations.
Without a specific subject.
So the French language itself is kind of observing the weather.
You could say that.
And telling us about it.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of the French and the weather.
Oh, boy.
Is it true they love to talk about it?
Oh, it's absolutely true.
Really?
Maybe it's the microclimates, you know? But they really weave it into every conversation.
So phrases like il fait beau are essential.
Oh, absolutely.
For nice weather.
And il fait froid for cold weather.
Right, you'll hear them constantly.
Multiple times a day, for sure.
And don't forget, il pleut.
Of course. It's raining.
You got to be ready for those.
Always.
Now, il isn't just for the weather.
No.
It's used for time, too.
Right, like il est tard.
Meaning it's late.
But it's not just about checking your watch.
Oh, really?
It can be a subtle hint
For what?
that it's time to wrap things up.
Oh, I see.
Time to head home or even go to bed.
Ah, very French.
Very subtle.
But il isn't just small talk either.
No, it's not.
It expresses strong ideas.
Exactly.
Like necessity.
Yes, like il faut.
Which means...
It's necessary.
Okay, so for obligations, chores, rules, anything you have to do.
That's
like il faut faire la vaisselle.
It's necessary to do the dishes.
No escaping chores.
Nope, not even in French.
And if something's important...
Then you'd use il est important.
Right, like il est important de voter.
It's important to vote.
Exactly. These expressions are powerful.
They convey your opinions.
And values.
With that extra oomph.
Yeah, and they're super common.
In everyday French, for sure.
Now, what about feelings?
Feelings.
Can il handle those?
Well, it might seem tricky.
It does.
But French uses express general feelings and reactions.
Okay.
Quite a lot, actually. Like,
Yeah.
il est triste.
It's sad.
Yes,
I
but
know.
it can also be a feeling of sadness.
In a situation.
Right, and you can react to situations with
Ugh.
il est stressant.
Boy, it's stressful.
Exactly, or even talk about difficulty.
With this,
Il est difficile.
it's difficult. So it's not so much I feel sad,
Yeah.
but this situation's sad.
Or the general feeling is one of sadness.
Interesting.
It's subtle. It is a shift in perspective.
Yeah, but it's key to understanding.
How the French use il
To express lots of ideas.
and feelings.
Now, what about il y a?
Ah, yes, il y a, the wild card.
Sometimes it means there is,
Or there are.
but then it can also be time-elapsed.
It can be a bit of a chameleon.
It really can.
Let's break it down.
Okay.
When it's used for the presence of something, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Like, il y a un chat dans le jardin.
There's a cat in the garden.
Right, but time-elapse can feel a bit trickier.
It can.
Like, il y a 2 heures.
2 hours ago?
Yes, that one always throws people off.
It does.
But don't let it intimidate you.
Okay.
Remember, even native speakers has to learn this.
True.
Il y a can also be general existence.
Like, il y a beaucoup de problèmes. There are many problems.
Exactly. It's a real multitasker.
It is. We've cracked the code.
I think so.
It's versatile, but with practice, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Any tips for our listeners prepping for that pronunciator module?
The impersonal expressions with il module,
Yes.
definitely practice these expressions in context.
Don't just memorize them.
No. Think about real-life situations.
Where you'd use them.
Exactly. And create your own sentences.
Maybe even narrate your day using them.
Now that's a challenge.
And Pronunciator's designed to help you practice.
And solidify what you learn.
So don't be afraid to make mistakes in the module.
That's how we all learn.
Embrace the process
And who knows, you might discover new ill expressions along the way.
that we didn't even cover.
The world of French grammar is full of surprises.
It really is. That's a great idea, narrating your day using ill expressions.
It'd be fun.
Like a challenge to see how many you can fit in.
Definitely.
Now, you know one thing that always strikes me about French?
What's that?
is how beautifully it expresses possibility.
Ah, yes.
Uncertainty.
Those maybes and perhapses.
Yeah, the whole spectrum of them.
French has a real knack for nuance.
It does.
And impersonal expressions.
They play a big role.
In conveying those shades of meaning,
Like
you,
meaning.
it's possible,
Right.
but with a hint of uncertainty.
Oh, so it's not a definite yes,
No.
but not a no either.
Exactly.
Intriguing. Any examples?
Sure. Imagine you're working through that pronunciator module
Okay.
and you're unsure about an answer.
Happens all the time.
You could say to yourself,
What?
Il se peut que ce soit la bonne réponse.
Meaning, it's possible this is the right answer,
Right. You're acknowledging the possibility.
but without being certain.
I like it very French.
Very nuanced.
Now, what about it seems or it appears?
Ah, yes, we have those too.
We do.
Il semble is your go-to,
For it seems.
often followed by que and a clause, like
Ah.
il semble qu'il va pleuvoir.
Which means.
It seems like it's going to rain
Right. So you're making an educated guess.
based on what you see.
Very useful for those listening exercises.
In the pronunciator module,
Speaking of which,
yes.
how would you say?
In French, it's nice today, so let's go for a walk.
Using an impersonal expression, of course,
Of course.
that would be Il fait beau aujourd'hui. Alors, allons nous promener.
Perfect.
Il fait beau sets the stage.
For the walk.
Exactly.
These expressions are building blocks.
For natural conversation.
They really are. Now, is there an equivalent for it's enough?
It suffices.
Yes, those come in handy.
They do. In French, you'd use il suffit de, a verb in the infinitive.
Okay, like
Il suffit de suivre les instructions.
maybe
It's enough to follow the instructions.
essential for those using pronunciator,
Absolutely follow those instructions.
though sometimes it feels like there are so many rules.
French grammar can be daunting,
It can.
but remember, it's about practice.
And progress.
Don't get discouraged.
If you don't get it all at once.
Someone does.
Speaking of daunting,
Oh, what now?
the difference between c'est and il est,
Ah, yes, a classic.
they both seem to mean it is.
They do.
So when do you use which?
It's a subtle difference in focus.
Okay.
Think of c'est as highlighting identity.
The nature of something.
Exactly, while il est emphasizes a characteristic.
Or a state of being.
You got it.
So,
C'est important.
emphasizes what is important.
Like a core value.
Yes, but il est important de voter.
Describes the act of voting as important.
That's the difference.
And with time, you'd say, c'est midi,
For it's noon,
because you're stating the time.
but you'd say il est tard
For it's late.
to describe the lateness.
Wow, those tiny grammatical choices.
They really do shape how French speakers express themselves.
It's fascinating and reminds me
Of what?
that even though we're focusing on these impersonal expressions,
Right.
there's a whole web of grammar working behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Language is a complex system
And all the pieces fit together.
in fascinating ways.
That's what makes it so rewarding.
To learn
The more you explore, the more you discover.
the patterns and the nuances.
Now let's talk about another difference,
Okay.
French and English.
The use of impersonal expressions.
Where English might use personal ones,
Right. So instead of I think it's interesting.
you might say, qu'il est intéressant.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how they differ.
French emphasizing the idea itself.
Rather than the individual's perception.
Less, I think, and more,
It is a cultural and linguistic observation.
it highlights how language shapes our thinking.
It really does.
Now, I've noticed you can use il to talk about age,
Oh,
even though il doesn't refer to a person.
right. Good point when talking about age.
You wouldn't use an impersonal expression.
No, you'd use c'est to introduce the person.
And then state their age,
Like, c'est son anniversaire, il a 30 ans.
meaning,
It's his birthday. He's 30 years old.
so c'est takes the spotlight for age.
It does.
Okay, back to il.
Okay.
Imagine you're giving directions.
In French,
How would you use il for distance?
whether a place is far or close,
Yeah.
you could say, il est loin. Or il est proche.
For it's close. Your spatial guides in French.
Exactly.
And if it's getting late,
And you want to suggest going home.
yeah, how would you say that?
Il se fait tard, on devrait rentrer.
Meaning
It's getting late, we should go home.
that il se fait tard.
Subtly conveys the passing of time?
A gentle nudge to say time to go.
That's a good way to put it.
Now, life throws us curveballs.
It does.
Sometimes things are just hard.
C'est la vie.
How do you express that in French?
With il, yes.
Yes.
You can use il est difficile
It's difficult.
for a challenging task or situation.
Okay.
Il est difficile d'apprendre une nouvelle langue.
It's difficult to learn a new language,
True.
but rewarding
That's where pronunciator comes in.
to make it less difficile.
And more engaging.
Exactly. Pronunciator gives you structure
And guidance.
to progress at your own pace.
Speaking of things that can be difficult,
What's difficult now?
stress, how do you say it's stressful?
With il.
Yes.
Let me think.
I know it.
You do.
It's il est stressant.
You got it.
Il est stressant. Perfect. For that feeling of overwhelm,
Or anxiety.
you know what I find stressful?
What's that?
Trying to memorize grammar rules,
Without using them?
like trying to learn to swim.
By reading a book?
It just doesn't work
You need to immerse yourself.
in the language
Make mistakes.
and build confidence.
We've covered a lot.
We have weather emotions, stress,
But what about surprises?
those unexpected moments.
How do you express surprise with il?
French has a perfect expression.
Tell me.
Il est surprenant.
It's surprising.
Exactly.
French has an expression for everything.
Almost everything.
So if you wanted to say,
That.
it's surprising how quickly time flies.
That would be il est surprenant de voir à quelle vitesse le temps passe.
Lovely.
Il est surprenant sets the stage.
For that observation about time,
Adds a touch of wonder.
it does like you're acknowledging those unexpected moments.
The beauty of life.
Speaking of surprises,
Yes.
I have a surprise question
Oh, a question.
from a listener.
Okay.
Who's prepping for that pronunciator module?
The impersonal expressions with il module.
That's the one. Are you ready?
Hit me with it.
Okay, they asked.
I'm listening.
Can you give us a rundown of how to use il to talk about the weather,
Okay.
especially those less common conditions?
Like,
Wind, snow, fog.
okay.
We've covered the basics,
Il fait beau, il pleut.
but they want to expand their weather vocabulary.
That's a great question, especially as we head into fall and winter.
When those conditions become more relevant,
Let's dive in.
perfect. First up, wind. How do you say it's windy?
With il, of course.
Of course.
When those gusts pick up, you'd say il fait du vent.
Okay.
And for a really blustery day,
Yes.
you can emphasize it with il fait beaucoup de vent.
It's very windy.
Exactly.
So if you're planning a picnic,
And il fait beaucoup de vent.
maybe reconsider.
Or bring extra napkins.
Now, what about snow?
A winter classic.
When those snowflakes start falling?
You'd say il neige.
Simple.
And again, you can emphasize it. Il neige beaucoup.
It's snowing heavily.
Perfect for a cozy evening.
By the fire with some hot chocolate.
And some pronunciator practice.
Now, fog. Some regions of France get quite foggy.
They do. When the fog rolls in, you say il y a du brouillard.
And if it's really thick,
You can't see your hand in front of your face.
right, then you'd say,
Il y a un brouillard épais.
there's a thick fog.
Exactly.
So wind, snow, fog, all covered.
I think so.
Anything else about weather with il?
Well, you can also use il for temperature.
More generally,
Yes, we've mentioned il fait chaud.
it's hot.
But you can also say il fait froid.
For it's cold.
And il fait doux.
It's mild.
Oh, right.
And to be more specific,
You can add adverbs like très for very.
okay,
Or un peu for a little.
to describe the intensity,
Exactly like il fait très froid aujourd'hui.
it's very cold today.
Or il fait un peu chaud.
It's a little hot.
Perfect.
Those adverbs give you flexibility.
To express those nuances,
Now, before we wrap up this part of the deep dive,
yes,
let's circle back to those impersonal expressions.
with il.
Why are they so crucial for French?
Especially for those using pronunciator.
They're like the backbone of grammar.
And everyday conversation.
They let you express so much,
From basic weather to complex emotions.
even abstract concepts,
And they're essential for understanding French,
spoken and written.
which is why they're featured in pronunciator.
Mastering them adds fluency,
And sophistication.
makes you sound natural,
And confidence.
like you're unlocking a secret
to
code.
the language.
You can navigate social
To
situations
express yourself better.
and connect with French speakers.
On a deeper level.
Beautifully said so for all of you learning French.
Especially with pronunciator.
Remember to embrace the power of il.
And those impersonal expressions.
They're your key to a whole new world.
Of communication and connection.
Now, if you're looking to test your knowledge,
And earn a certificate.
the Pronunciator Impersonal Expressions with il module
is the perfect place to start.
It's packed with exercises and examples.
To solidify your understanding.
And practice what we've discussed.
And as always, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
It's all part of learning.
The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
Exactly. And who knows?
What?
You might discover new ill expressions.
The world of French grammar
Is full of surprises.
It is.
Well said. Now, as you continue your French adventure,
Your language journey.
we have one final thought-provoking question. So as you continue your French adventure, we have one final thought to leave you with.
A question to ponder.
How do these impersonal expressions, especially the ones with ill,
How do they shape the way French speakers view the world?
do they create a sense of detachment
Objectivity, maybe?
or perhaps a deeper connection to the world?
It's a fascinating question.
Like we're getting a glimpse into the French psyche.
Understanding how they see and interact with the world.
Maybe it encourages a focus on the bigger picture,
A sense of shared experience
or even a bit of philosophical thinking.
about the nature of things.
What do you think?
I think you've summed it up beautifully.
It's like we've been decoding not just grammar,
But a whole way of thinking.
and that's what makes language learning so enriching.
It's not just about memorizing words.
Or conjugations,
It's about opening yourself up.
to new perspectives.
New ways of seeing the world.
And that's what we hope you've gained from this deep dive.
Into French impersonal expressions.
We've explored how to use them.
And even how they might reflect deeper cultural patterns.
It's been a journey.
Of discovery.
And for all of you using Pronunciator,
To boost your French skills.
keep practicing, keep experimenting,
Embrace the challenges and rewards of learning.
and remember that Pronunciator module.
On impersonal expressions with OL.
It's there to help you solidify your understanding
Test your knowledge.
and earn that certificate.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Revisit the material. Have fun with it.
Exactly.
We've reached the end of our deep dive today.
But the journey continues for you.
Keep exploring, keep learning.
And keep immersing yourself in French.
Au revoir and happy French speaking.
Until next time.
Bon voyage on your language adventure.